So how many people in this room have heard this statement right here? Jesus fulfilled over 300 prophecies in the Old Testament. Who has heard that? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Okay. I'll tell you why. I don't like saying he fulfilled 300 prophecies or whatever. Let me give you some of the prophecies. Have you ever looked at all these 300 prophecies that are out there? One is that Jesus would be exalted and that he would ascend into heaven. How do we know that? Well, it was predicted in Psalm 68. You have ascended on high. You have led captive your captives. Now, let's just say that that's not referring to God the Father, Yahweh, and that's referring to God the Son, Jesus, which it isn't. Psalm 68 is referring to God the Father, Yahweh. Let's just say that's referring to Jesus. What's the fulfillment? Well, they say, flip over to Acts chapter 1, verse 9. Jesus was lifted up while they were looking on, and a cloud received him out of their sight. Psalm 68 predicts it. Acts chapter 1 shows the fulfillment. Do you see the problem with saying that that has any kind of evidential value? How do we know Jesus was ascended into heaven? What's the historical evidence that shows? Well, Acts chapter 1. See, to me, that is circular reasoning. When you say we're using the Bible to fulfill the Bible. What I've been arguing so far is that we're actually appealing to external approaches to show that this part of the Bible is historically accurate, even if you don't believe in the inspiration of the Bible. And I know you could make a case that generally the book of Acts is reliable, or generally the epistles are reliable. It just seems to me that this is a faulty approach when you're just saying it's been fulfilled over here. Let me give you another example here as well. Prediction of future glory. Psalm 102, the Lord has built up Zion, Jerusalem. He has appeared in his glory. Okay, so that's referring to Jesus? Yeah, we know that's referring to Jesus because Luke 21 says, then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. See, Psalm 102 predicts glory. Luke 21 says at the second coming there will be glory. This is one of the 300 predictions. This hasn't even happened yet. This is at the second coming of Christ. So to say Jesus fulfilled past tense, this definitely is not true. He hasn't fulfilled this yet. Now, do I believe Jesus ascended into heaven? Yes. Do I believe that Jesus is going to come again on the clouds and return? Yes. But do I think this is good for apologetics? No. No, because I don't think it has persuasive, evidential cogency. It's not persuasive for people. Another one of the 300. Psalm 72, I'm not making this up. May there be abundance of grain in the earth on top of the mountains. It's argued grain breaks apart, the husk of grain, and then it produces an abundant harvest. And Jesus used this exact metaphor for his death. John chapter 12. So this is one of the 300 predictions that he fulfilled. You see what I'm saying? Problems here. What about he'll flee to Egypt? Hosea 11:1. Out of Egypt I called my son. That's a good prediction, especially when we consider Matthew chapter 2, verse 14. Joseph, Jesus' stepfather, got up and took the child, Jesus, and his mother while it was still night, and he left for Egypt. This was to fulfill what was spoken by Hosea, out of Egypt I called my son. There you go. So Jesus, now you could say, how do we know that Jesus really fled from wherever he was at the time, Galilee to Egypt? Well, that'd be hard to demonstrate. I got an even bigger problem with this being one of the 300 predictions. Did you know that when you read the context of Hosea chapter 11, the first strophe is when when Israel was a youth, I loved him. Who? Israel. And out of Egypt I called my son. So far from being a prediction of Jesus, critics would actually say, you're going to use that as one of the 300 prophecies of Jesus? When you read the context and you see that actually the context refers to Israel. Now, do I think this is a biblical error? That, as one critic put it in a journal article, Matthew twists the scriptures and he cites Hosea chapter 11. No. In fact, I got a 5-page article rejecting that interpretation. What I'm saying is this is complicated. Matthew's use of Hosea 11 and how Hosea is using it in his time period referring back to the earlier Exodus, and there's so much going on with this usage of Hosea by Matthew in Matthew chapter 2. I don't want to go there. Now, do I believe that Matthew is looking at what happened with Israel and is seeing an example that's parallel to Jesus? Yes, I do. And is Israel God's son and is Jesus God's son? Yes, they are. It's just complicated. And so to say Jesus fulfilled over 300 prophecies, I don't say that. I don't like to overstate the case. What I like to do is actually shrink these down to a few that I think are very good. That's why I opened this course with Isaiah 53, Psalm 22, Daniel 9. Those three are the big heavy hitters. Do I believe that you can make a case all throughout the Old Testament that Jesus fulfilled many hundreds of prophecies in the Old Testament? Yes, I do believe that. Luke chapter 24, Jesus says after he was risen, I have come and I want to show you how I fulfilled everything that was written in the books of Moses, the Psalms or the writings, and also the prophets, the tripartite view of the Tanakh, the Old Testament, the law, the writings, and the prophets. Jesus said, I'm in all of it. And so I believe that he fulfilled that. I'm just saying this. When we look at prophecy and the way it's fulfilled, the word there is plerao. And that word could mean a one-to-one fulfillment, like a Daniel 9 kind of fulfillment. It could be a Psalm 22 kind of fulfillment, or it could be filled full, not fulfilled. So it could be, this was to fulfill Hosea chapter 11, that just like Israel was saved out of Egypt, so was Jesus saved out of Egypt. Just as Israel was God's son, so is Jesus God's son. So I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that we shouldn't overstate our case when the Bible is way more nuanced in its use of the word fulfilled than maybe modern day apologists are. That being said, I want to give you a few more messianic prophecies that I think are pretty good. I wouldn't put these on par with Daniel 9 or Isaiah 53 or Psalm 22, but I would say these are still pretty good. And your homework assignment is going to be to rate how persuasive and evidential these are in your opinion, and what kind of a person you would share these with so that we don't make this mistake.